All right, folks, this is somewhat of a follow-up segment to one we did on the last show. You may remember Tucker Carlson's appearance at the Turning Point USA conference in which he called out, as Libertas Redux says here, Redux says, call out Mossad and Israel. So just a brief recap of his speech. They're not going to play much, just a refresher in case you missed it on Sunday.
Every right to ask on whose behalf was we have every right to ask on whose behalf was he working. How does a guy go from being a math teacher at the Dalton School in the late 70s with no college degree to having multiple airplanes, a private island, and the largest residential house in Manhattan? Where did all the money come from? And no one has ever gotten to the bottom of that because no one has ever tried. And moreover, it's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed into thinking that that's naughty. There is nothing wrong with saying that.
Well, maybe nothing wrong to you, but there's a lot wrong with a lot of your fellow conservatives and the Israelis. The Israelis think there's a lot wrong with saying that. So we're going to get to this in that order. So, of course, Mark Levin. So what? You agree with this bullshit? Then put up your evidence. That's what he says. Okay. Obviously, as Crystal Waters, our friend, an audience member, MAGA for Palestine, she had a great response to this. Pam Bondi and real Donald Trump are literally keeping the evidence from us and telling us to get over it. Yeah, you can't tell us to produce evidence that the government will not release. The whole point of lobbying Donald Trump to release the evidence, the whole point of making that a pillar of the MAGA movement is that only the government can do it. So telling us to put up or shut up, we can't. That's the whole point. The whole point is that we can't produce evidence that we're not allowed to see. So good point, Crystal. Good for you. Laura Loomer, this is quite something.
All of a sudden she has no problem with that.
Yeah. Well, now here's Laura Loomer talking about, she has a real hard-on for Tucker. She says, I have no problem with people being critical of Israel. Oh, really? You have no problem with people? It kind of sounds like you have a problem with people being critical of Israel.
I think so.
Yeah. That being said, TPUSA and Charlie Kirk should be transparent with the donors they solicit on the grounds that they are promoting pro-Israel views, which they often tell donors. If they're going to allow for Tucker Carlson to spew his anti-American and anti-Israel bullshit and paranoia at TPUSA, the implication there that he solicits donations for this from rich Jewish donors. I am not sure which ones she is referring to. There are a lot of not-for-profits that, yeah, right, exactly. A lot of not-for-profits donate to Turning Point. I can't really figure out which ones are run by Jews or not, but that's what Laura Loomer says. And she adds to this, I'm going to keep calling this out because it's about moral clarity. And I'm tired of Jewish conservatives being told we are dual agents and not America first if you support Israel's right to exist. How about you are in America first if you blow the president of Iran for 30 minutes and don't even stop once to clean your face? Wipe your mouth, Tucker, when you take the jihadist cock out of your mouth. Wow. For someone who took such offense to people suggesting that she was sucking Donald Trump's dick, she seems very quick to employ graphic oral sex metaphors about other people. She took such offense when people suggested that she was having an affair with Donald. How dare you talk about me in such rude terms? Well, that's pretty crude stuff. That's pretty impolite, I would say. So, all right, that's fairly run-of-the-mill, par for the course. What caught a lot of people's attention, though, 13.7 million to be exact as of the time that I put this slideshow together, that number is significantly higher now, is the Israelis themselves found it worthwhile to chide Charlie Kirk for inviting Tucker Carlson to the stage to make such a speech. And they want everybody to understand that Jeffrey Epstein has nothing to do with Israel. Yeah. So here's Naftali Bennett, former Israeli prime minister. This guy is to Netanyahu's right, by the way. We'd say Netanyahu is kind of a centrist in Israeli terms on the Israeli scale. So here's a right-wing Israeli, Naftali Bennett. As a former Israeli prime minister, with Mossad having reported directly to me, I say to you with 100% certainty, the accusation that Jeffrey Epstein somehow worked for Israel or the Mossad running a blackmail ring is categorically and totally false. Oh, well, if an Israeli politician says it, it must be true. Must be true. That puts that story to bed.
They never lie.
They never lie.
The
Yeah.
world's most moral intelligence services.
This shows you they lack the same self-awareness that Trump does now. Like, you really expected this to like put the issue to bed as opposed to doing the exact opposite. Talk about the lady doth protest too much. Like, why are you chiming in on what had happened at an American conference?
Well, they're panicking because as
Yes.
we have observed pretty much from the beginning, the pro-Israel part of MAGA is exclusively the professional part of MAGA that gets paid to have that opinion.
Right.
The actual base does not have that opinion. And
Right.
watching anyone who criticizes Israel step up at turning points and get applause from the audience is terrifying for them.
Yep.
In the end, the MAGA movement goes its own way. Who's left? Laura Loomer and a bunch of Mossad agents?
Yeah, Mark Levin.
Who's left on the other side?
Exactly.
Ben Shapiro?
Right.
Whose company, not coincidentally, I mean, that was an early indicator of that reality. All conservative media is thriving and they're going bankrupt. Why?
That's right.
Why? For what reason? They got Matt Walsh. They had Candace Owens. Like, why are they having financial problems? Because they are so strongly identified with a Zionist position.
So he continues, Epstein's conduct, both the criminal and the merely despicable, had nothing whatsoever to do with the Mossad or the State of Israel. Epstein never worked for the Mossad. Yeah, you said that already. This accusation is a lie being peddled by prominent online personalities such as Tucker Carlson, pretending they know things they don't. They just make things up, say it with confidence, and these lies stick because it's Israel. There's a vicious wave of slander and lies against my country and my people, and we just won't take it anymore. To which Nick Cruz from RBN says, thanks for the confirmation that Epstein was Mossad. Yeah, exactly. Like, this has the exact opposite effect that you would think it would have. Max Blumenthal says, leaving aside Epstein's close ties to 4 Israel prime ministers, including the current one, whom he introduced to J.P. Morgan executives, no one capable of critical thought believes anything you say. That's because you and your fellow Israeli leaders have told too many lies, stolen too much land, and cried anti-Semitism one too many times. The only time you seem to be telling the truth is when you boast about your propensity for mass murder, such as when you said, meaning Naftali Bennett, I've killed lots of Arabs in my life, and there's no problem with that. Like Epstein, you thought you can get away with your crimes indefinitely, but the people have seen enough, and their wrath will only grow. Yes, well said. Max, Caitlin Johnston says, last month you were adamantly, ferociously, indignantly denying that Israeli forces had fired upon civilians seeking aid, only for it to then become a daily occurrence, and for your own soldiers to tell the Israeli press that you lied. Exactly. These guys are habitual liars, as we know. So here's Amishai Chikli, Israeli Minister of Diaspora and Combating Anti-Semitism, whatever that means. So he writes to Charlie Kirk, an open letter to Charlie Kirk. Dear Charlie, like many others, have been following your remarkable journey from afar. Your pursuit of truth, integrity, and love for your country. Very few young people are as gifted as you, and even fewer possess such a strong moral compass. Ha! I watched Tucker Carlson's speech at your conference and your debate with Megyn Kelly, and I must admit I was filled with sorrow. I don't know whether Jeffrey Epstein was an intelligence asset for any agency. I would certainly like to know. In particular, I would like to understand his connection to the kind of people who sought to sell out the land of Israel to the Palestinians. People like the former Israeli Prime Ministers Ehud Barak and Ehud Olmert, who both appear in previously published Epstein-related documents. Oh, okay, so they were the bad Israelis. They were the traitorous Israelis. They were the pro-Palestine Israelis.
Not coincidentally, at least one of them giving interviews now saying Israel is committing war crimes.
Exactly, yes. Still, as you have noted, there is no evidence, none, that Epstein was acting on behalf of the State of Israel. Yet the message conveyed at your conference, with Tucker Carlson as keynote speaker just days after his sycophantic interview with the Iranian terror regime, was unmistakable. Israel was behind Epstein. The audience applauded. Everyone seemed pleased, especially the Qataris and their jihadist terror channel, Al Jazeera. By the way, it would be fascinating to uncover the depth and nature of their connection to influencers such as Tucker Carlson and others. Yeah, it's a sick burn. There's nothing wrong with demanding complete transparency about Jeffrey Epstein, but there is something profoundly wrong with elevating Holocaust deniers and neo-Nazis like Daryl Cooper and conspiracy theorists like Candace Owens. Owens, Cooper, and Carlson are not conservatives. They are full-blown wokeists just wearing different costumes. Were they at the conference? I don't think they were at the conference. I think we'd have said that. I think we'd have seen. Oh, does he mean Tucker Carlson has elevated, though? That's what he means. He's saying that Tucker has elevated those people. All right. Got it. Amichai Chikli, who is literally Israel's spy and infiltration king, is telling Charlie Kirk he is disappointed in him hosting Tucker Carlson. Are they panicking? That's Gen X girl, by the way, whose first day on the job as segment producer for New Dissidents is tomorrow. So we will be featuring some of Gen X girls' research on the next show on Thursday. Are they panicking? Yes. Yes, they are. Clint Russell says, if you want us to stop talking about Israel's influence in American politics, you should really reconsider this entire post. Do you not see how insulting this is? Yeah, not only is it insulting, it's very revealing. Why would the Israelis give a shit if some quacks mouth off about them at some conference in America? Like, you are revealing your own guilt by making this big a deal about it. That's where the Shakespeare quote, the lady doth protest too much. If this was bullshit, you would leave it alone. You would leave it alone. You don't have to come up here and have a big hissy fit about Charlie Kirk. How could you invite this guy onto the stage? If it's nonsense, people talk nonsense all the time. People talk shit all the time. The fact that they went to such lengths as to write these treatises about how irresponsible it was for Charlie Kirk to host Tucker Carlson, because how dare he imply that Jeffrey Epstein was on the Israeli payroll in some way, because, of course, that can't possibly be true. What you're doing is you're telling on yourself. The fact that you are this adamant about it, the fact that you felt the need to go out and make these statements has the exact opposite effect. That's what Nick said. He says, thanks for confirming he was Mossad, because this makes it more like the average person reads this. They watch Tucker's speech. They see your reaction. The average person now thinks it's more likely that he was Mossad or Mossad oriented or a liaison for Mossad. We're not saying he got a W-2 from Mossad. I think he was the liaison between a lot of different agencies.
Right.
But the average person watches this and think, okay, it's more
that's
likely
what Eric
now.
Weinstein said.
Yeah,
he said Jeffrey Epstein was basically a front for a lot of different interests, not just Mossad.
Exactly. He was not like an agent, but he worked with them. And of course, in the mind of the average person, when you see their reaction, it makes the average person think, well, it's more likely there's something there than not. Obviously. I mean, that's just common sense. That's just common sense.
Well, and as Max pointed out, when you come out and you say he had nothing to do with Israel, and it's well documented that he had involvement with 4 different prime ministers, I mean, right there, you can be proven to be lying.
Right.
This is what we've seen again and again with Israeli propaganda. They've pretty much had a free hand for, 75 of the last 76 years. And that makes you sloppy. They expect to be able to control the conversation in a way that they no longer can, and they have no idea what to do about it. And watching the truth start to come out at one of the biggest right-wing Republican MAGA kind of confabs in the country, that's terrifying to them, because they know most of the Democrat base is not with them. Most of the base, and again, just like on the other side, leadership is with them. People they're directly bribing are with them. But you're seeing this here too. Because of Trump, they've been able to more or less kind of keep a lid on it over there, and the lid is popping off, and there's really nothing that they can do about it. We've been saying this the whole time. The average MAGA person is not pro-Israel. Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. Most of them are anti-Semitic adjacent, if not outright anti-Semitic. Like the basic premise of the protocols of the elders of Zion. Man, I'm not going to say most. That's not fair. But a good portion. Let's put it this way. People who believe that are much more likely to be at Turning Points USA than say at the National Dog Show. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you had Charlie Kirk. Don't forget. I mean, not only was Tucker there, and not only did they have Megyn Kelly there, but they had that Dave Smith debate versus the Israeli guy, whatever his name is. So, Kirk felt a need to at least give some airtime to the anti-Israel point of view. And Kirk is nothing if not a grifter. So the fact that he had those people there meant he obviously felt like he had to.
He's got
this
his
can't
finger
just
in the
be
wind.
a Zionist. It just can't be
Right.
a Zionist propaganda fest. That wouldn't fly with those in attendance.
Right. He knew what Dave Smith was going to say.
Of course. Yeah. And he had him there anyway. Yep. 100%.
Please clap.